If the spirit so moves, I don't promise anything. Okay. In my lecture 2 years ago on education and parenting for peace, I had recited or translated a verse from an ancient Upanishad, the Garbha Upanishad, the Upanishad of the womb. In cultures that do not even question the idea of reincarnation, the attitudes to life are very different. The very subtle differences. And one of them is in this recognition of the natural sainthood in a child. Even now in India, there are dozens of child preachers, the way I was. I had crowds of 10,000. Because that culture recognizes the qualities you bring, the knowledge you bring from previous lifetime. So you don't think it's strange that somebody is born reciting scripture. Here you will examine their brain structure. Take them through the MRI scans. What makes them so intelligent? In the brain structure, you will not find proof of reincarnation. According to the texts and the general belief system, every child is born a saint. That doesn't mean that the parents don't claim the ownership that as they do everywhere else. But the moment a little sainthood, little purity shows, immediately the child is encouraged to realize it. That I know from my personal experience. Women used to come and try to feel my feet if they were solid on the ground. Because the legend is that the gods don't stand quite solid on the ground. It had its downside. It made me into such an arrogant teenager, I can't tell you. I can't tell you. It took quite a while for me to learn the other way. And I still have these traces of arrogance, I assure you. So that recognition is there. And the signs of that are visible. The spirit, the purity of the spirit always rises and asserts itself. There are moments in your life when it rises and asserts itself. You ignore it, you suppress it, you push it away. I don't have time for all that nonsense, you say to yourself. I have to be practical. But in trying to be that practical, actually you are being impractical. Because you are ignoring to tap that vast resource of infinity that is at your disposal. You do not know how to tap that resource, how to draw upon it. You do not know how to tune into it. And your meditation will teach you, and it will teach you to recognize that spirituality wherever you meet it. So when you leave this body, you carry all your samskaras, all your imprints. But underneath those imprints, there is the ever pure, ever wise, ever free, the self, the Atman, the spirit, which never becomes corrupted. That is one principle that is common to all religions, that the soul is incorruptible. All the three major sects of the Jews, the Pharisees, the Sadducees, and the Essenes, the historian of the Jews, Josephus, says, all believed in the incorruptibility of the soul. That is one thing they and the Gnostics had in common, that the Gnostics and the Sankhya philosophers have in common. In Islam also the real essence is incorruptible. So such an incorruptible force is you. Nothing can corrupt that self. Underneath the dust, the mirror is clean. Underneath the dust, the crystal is clean. And you are that crystal. So when you leave this body, in whatever transition period you go through, okay, your sanskaras do not have the physical instrumentation to assert themselves. The spirit begins to assert itself. And according to the Garbha Upanishad, Upanishad of the womb, every fetus knows itself to be the pure Atman. And whatever non-verbal thoughts it has, there's such a thing as non-verbal thought. You've forgotten that. You used to have that before you learnt words. What were your thoughts before you learnt words? What was the experience of loving your mother before you knew the word mother? So whatever non-verbal thoughts that innocent fetus has, in that there is a recognition of who I am, what I am.